Hey, what's up guys? Totally Dubbed here, and this is a Logitech G900 Chaos Spectrum mouse review. That's the best I could do with a low voice. So this mouse is a £135 mouse on Amazon.co.uk and on Amazon USA for $145. So if you're interested, make sure you check in the links in the description below, and also I'll link down Logitech's website for its specs, and also most importantly my website where you can see a full written review with pictures of the mouse itself to see ergonomics and everything like that. Now inside the beautiful packaging that you've got over here, you will find yourself some manuals which pretty much reside back into the box really quickly. You've got the mouse itself, which I'll do a little overview in just a bit. You've got a USB extender, including the charger, which is a micro USB to USB, which is always useful, because you can also replace that in case yours breaks. You've got the actual connector for your USB for the mouse in order to work wirelessly, and you've got this nice little converter from USB to micro USB, and this is really useful because if you want to plug it into your computer, and for some reason it's not really working because your computer is too far away, or if you've got too much interference between your computer and your mouse, then what you can do is plug in this little adapter and then plug that into your computer, and then have that on your desk because it's just extra length. Now this cable is braided, and it also doubles up as charging the device, because what you can do is plug it straight into the mouse over here and then use it whilst it's charging. Now the charge also does last a long time. I didn't have any problems whilst gaming, but if it does run low, it will notify you, and at that point I would just suggest just connecting in and using it wired for that time being. Now moving on to this little box. Now you might think it's not really important, but in my opinion it's actually a really cool feature. Now this mainly comes from the customizations. Now in terms of the overview of the mouse, I'll just do that in a second, but basically the sides of the mouse can be popped out. Because it's a symmetric design, you can use it both left-handed and right-handed, and in that case you can customize what these buttons are. So obviously through the software you can customize what they do, but what I'm trying to say here is that you can remove these buttons completely and actually replace it with just a pure blank. In other words, something that just has no buttons. Same way, you can have something that's blank and then replace it with actual buttons with a simple little adapter which connects in via magnets and therefore turns into a button. I absolutely love this feature. It's very simple but very effective, because this not only enables left-handers to play, it also allows you to have more customization of your mouse. Therefore you having the ability to have 1, 2, 3, 4 buttons on the sides, 2 buttons at the top, plus the default 3 buttons, left, right and middle click for the mouse wheel. The other button over here is the transition between free scrolling mode and then clicking mode. So the amount of customization you've got on that mouse is great. The only customization that's really missing over here is its weight adjustments. You've got no weight adjustments. Unlike the Logitech G502, for example, you had a little compartment you could pop open and you had the weight. But in my opinion, the weight of this mouse is very good. It's got a right weight to it. It's not too light, it's not too heavy. It's just right in my opinion. But again, that is all personal preference. So it would have been nice if Logitech actually had that option of changing weights like they did with the G502. So I'm not quite sure why they've removed it in their, well, basically flagship mouse. So now let's go ahead and plug in the device, and what I'm going to do is get it off and put it on a wireless mode so I can just demonstrate it. I'll just plug this in to my PC, and then we can start using it. So there we go. It's now plugged in and I am now using the mouse and it's working. So the mouse has different customizations. First of all, you can see the color of the DPI light over here, which again, you can disable these buttons not to be DPI, but those buttons light up. If you do have DPI, you can change the DPI up and down, and it goes in terms of like different intervals. And you've got the G logo over here, which again can be customized through the software. I'll show you the software in just a second, don't you worry. In my opinion, I didn't use the light just because I found it to be warming up, and in terms of the palm, I just found it a little bit uncomfortable. So overall, the light is a cool feature. It looks nice, but it's not something that I would personally use. Just like I do on my Logitech G303, I turn it off completely. So Now in terms of the overview of the mouse, so as I said, you've got some buttons on the left hand side and the right hand side. Now these buttons can be, as I said, customized through the software, but also in terms of physically changing the buttons, having them disabled completely in order for you not clicking an actual button. But you've got two buttons on the left, two buttons on the right, two buttons at the top over here, which is normally the DPI, and you've got a free scrolling button thing. And then you've got left and right on the scroll, up and down obviously, and then left and right clicks. Now I'm just going to go silent so you guys can actually hear the clicks. And there we go, that's a little quick overview of the clicks. The clicks are, I would say, a little bit accentuated, but they're very much pleasant and they don't bother me when I was playing at night. So, moving on to the from that, I just want to mention something about rattle noise, because in a G502 a lot of people complained about that, and also so did I actually, and also sticky fingers. Now sticky fingers is if you're sweaty like me, you have sticky fingers, so you get bounce back. Now if I go quiet, so as you can hear, it's still the same problem with the G900. You've got this sort of bounce back feel, whereas like in the Logitech G303, you've got none of that, and that's just basically on how the switches are done over here. So you do get some bounce back on this 900 like you do with the G502. Is it a problem? Well, it depends on how you define as a problem. In my opinion, I think it's just something that's a little bit annoying, but it's something that you do get used to quite quickly. But it's something you should be aware of. Now in terms of rattle noise, there is slight rattle, but it's not like the G502, it's much less, but I don't really see people like rattling their mouse like this. So, no problem. So it depends on how you see it. The G502 had much more of a problem, and that's really to do with the mechanism of the scroll wheel. Now, moving on to performance. The most important thing of a mouse is obviously its performance, and now this is a wireless mouse. Now the mouse houses a PMW3366 optical sensor. Now this sensor is the same one that's used in the Logitech G303 and the G502, deemed as one of the most perfect sensors out there on the market, and to be honest, as a G303 and G502 user, it is the best sensor I've ever come across due to its accuracy and perfect sensor tracking. It's got up to 12,000 DPI. I don't know if you're going to ever use that in my opinion, but in my case I use it at 1,250, which is more than enough. Now in terms of its sensor performance, it's amazing sensor. I love the sensor from top to bottom in terms of gaming, competitively, or even using it in Windows. It's absolutely accurate and amazing to use with no acceleration, which means that you've got the best experience you can imagine with a mouse. Other mice have a fantastic experience too, but this one really does take the cake. Now in terms of its wireless performance, it's something I was very much kind of worried about, because I've previously tried some SteelSeries wireless mice versus the wired ones, and I noticed a lot of latency problems. In this case, I'm pleased to say that there was barely any noticeable latency problems, but there were still some latency problems. Now, when I say problems, I mean that when I plugged this in via wired, I noticed the mouse was super responsive, just like the G303. When it was unplugged, made into wireless, I noticed there was a millisecond delay when I was moving left and right, almost like when you're testing the response time of a monitor, when you have overdrive as extreme and therefore everything's like blurry and ghosty, but everything works, versus when you have it off, when it's just a little bit sluggish. Not to say this is not a bad wireless gaming mouse, it's just that if you're really going to be competitively gaming, you're going to notice those really small milliseconds. And in my experience, I found that I would game with it whilst wired, but often use it via wireless because it just gave me more freedom and not having to worry about a cable that's dragging around. So for casual gaming, absolutely fantastic. In terms of competitive gaming, I would definitely suggest going back to wired in this respect. The beauty of this mouse is that you've got that option, so you can do it. So what do I think of the mouse overall? I think personally it is one of the best overall complete mices you can find on the market today. From its wireless function, from its color customization, from its button customization, from the fact that it can be used by a left-hander and right-hander, and its weight, which is just right, and the fact that its software, which I forgot to show you, is fantastically well integrated, and you can do all different things with it. So let me just quickly pan over here and just quickly click through the software, and you've got different profiles that you can set, all the buttons that can be customized, and you can edit everything with macros, keystrokes, and normal functionalities. You can change the colors of the DPI lights and the logo. You can check the charge level. You can also make it so that it notifies you in terms of color wise. You can tune it in terms of a mouse pad, and you can even have a heat map if you so wish. My point is, over here it is one of the best complete mice out there in the market. I would definitely suggest it, but it is an expensive mouse. If you're ready to shell out that much for a mouse, then I would look no further than this